Can an 18-year-old car component meet today's standards? That's all I'm going to ask you guys, all right? We're going to do a build. Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the channel. I'm Al. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch one of my videos. I really do appreciate that. You guys are so awesome. It's been a while, been more than 7 days. Personal thing, personal reasons, stuff that has been going on, and I had to take care of real quick. But I'm back, hopefully in full force. An 18-year-old car built in 2007 meets today's standards of the modern day RC. Let me go ahead and bring you what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the HoBao, this is the HoBao Hyper ST Pro kit. It's a Pro kit. It's a build kit. You build it from scratch. Everything that you need in here except for nitro. If you're going to build electric, you got to have your own component for electric. But this thing was released in 2007, so it's about 18 years old. Can this kit meet today's standard as far as RC kits, pro build that you build? That's the question I got for you. And we're going to figure that out here soon, okay? So let's look at some box art. Let's get it over to that bench and let's start building it, okay? Let's get started. All right, here's some of the box art. We got center spider differential set, graphite radio tray, center top plate, center universal joint shaft, front CNC aluminum suspension arm holders, lightweight clutch bell and turnbuckles. We're not using the clutch bell, but we are using the turnbuckles and everything else. The front CNC aluminum shock towers, front CNC steering knuckles and toe end plate, CNC aluminum chassis with brace, rear CNC aluminum suspension arm and holders. So the chassis is 70-75. It's milled out. Rear CNC aluminum shock towers, rear universal drive shaft. So as you can see, again, universal drive shaft front and rear. The output cups, the drive line for the wheels, they're all universal too. So everything in here is universal, everyone. So there's nothing else. There's no dog bone. Again, I'm not using half of this. Some of this is I can probably use. I'm trying to keep it original and use only HoBao parts. But if I can't, you guys will know. All right, since we're done looking at the box art, let's go here to the table, pull the stuff out in the bag, show you what comes in the bag, and then let's get started on the build, okay? All right, so here's what you get in the box. You get the instructor manual, masking for the windows, some more HoBao stickers, antenna tube, stickers for the HoBao sticker sheet, ST Pro. You get your exploded overview, parts manual or parts sheet to include upgrades and the listing of all the parts, with inserts, foam inserts, spoke wheels. You also get a big bag of parts. You got differential 500,000, 30,000, bearings, I guess that's Loctite, and some grease. Side guards, fuel tank, we're not going to use that. We're going to use the side guards. Your diffs, I think this is front and rear diff. Top plate braces, motor mount plate, shocks to include shock oil to go with it. And this is your receiver box, your battery box, top plate for your motor, servo receiver, wing, Akron bar, steering rack, and servo savers. In this bag you get all the other goodies, shock towers, bearings, pistons, arms. Here's everything you need for the nitro part. We're not going to need that. And then here you go with the rest of the arms, hubs, steering knuckles, universal drive shaft. Universal drive shaft all around. Here we go. Here's the chassis. The chassis is 70-75, aluminum milled out in certain spots, about 3 millimeters thick. Oh, this is familiar. This is the spider gears. And then you get the ST Pro body. They must have known I was going to do electric because there's no cutout here for the nitro engine. Normally the body would be cut out for the nitro engine right here. And this would be cut out so you can actually get to the pull start. All right, everyone, let me go ahead and get situated here. And I'll bring you guys back when I got things, part one, get ready to get started, all right? All right, first thing we need to do is get started with the shocks. the diffs. So assembly of the front and rear diffs. That's what this is all about. It says 30,000 in the front and rear. I'm not going to be racing it. I might be bashing it. So I might have to change up the diff oil a little bit. Still use 30,000 in the front. I think I'll put 40,000 in the front though. All right, putting the diff together is like still using composite for the housing itself. But again, the gears, look, there we go, beefy and thick. The gasket they use on the inside for this one here, this older model, give me focus here. That's how thick it is. All right, here we go. Starting on the center diff now. Oh man, these are some hefty gears. So this comes apart in 3 pieces. Bottom cap, housing, spur gear, all that comes off. They got grease in here. So yeah, that's gonna have to get cleaned off. Grease before I add any diff oil, and I gotta get all that grease off there. Leave some of that grease on the edge. Look clean enough to you guys? So what do you think about these HoBaos that I've been picking up lately? What do you think? Am I making a mistake? Should I stick with arrma, Team Corrali, Kyosho? Or do you think I'm beating on a horse that's not going to actually get any traction and not win a race? Does it feel like 500,000? All right, it's time to get started with the front housing, diff housing. That's pretty tight. That's a good fit right there. Yeah, I did grease it up a little bit just to make sure everything slides in correctly. I'll break up another bag here before that's smooth. And this is dry shaft for the center diff. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna play it all, let's tighten that up, clean it up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get used to having the universals all the way around. But that's a good thing. One part of it break, you just go and place it with another. So let's go ahead and see how tight this thing really is, this fitment. It's pretty tight on there. I'm going to start on the rear diff. I already put together the front suspension arms, the rear front shock tower, and everything else. The front, how can I put it, universal drive shaft for the front of the drivetrain. Oil's already been added, grease has already been added to it. What I want to show you is the fitment of the parts. They provide shims for this build, for the diff. Once you've attached everything together and it clicks into place, I'm just gonna hold it right now. There is no movement at all. There's no play at all in this, and everything is smooth. I mean, it is smooth as butter. Smooth as butter, that's all I can say. So the fitment is excellent, but to have a large scale like this, Pro Series they call it, and the fitment of the parts fits exactly how it's supposed to without you adding or taking away something. That's awesome. I want to talk about that real quick. And then I'm gonna put together the steering rack assembly and steering rod and all that. But yeah, let me go ahead and finish putting this together and you guys will see what I'm talking about, okay? And the bearings, one more thing. All the bearings that goes on this kit are the same size. They are the 5x16 and they're the same size. They fit all parts. So if you have 5x16 bearings, I would just go to order a bunch of them. So that way you have them just in case one fails, you just replace one. You ain't got to go and order like one size, a different size from another. All the bearings in this kit here is all 5x16s. So just to give you a heads up, let you know what's going on. Yeah, and everything that's fit in there tight. You really got to force everything in there. Not force like, you know, hammer, but you just got to make sure it's in there correctly before you start pushing it down. Make sure it goes in there evenly and everything else. Oh yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Can't wait for the first drive. You're like, Al, you're like a kid in the candy store. You're right, I am like a kid in the candy store. It's just awesome how everything fits in here. All right, before I put the sway bars support on and mounts on, let's take a look at these. This is the rear assembly, and this is the front. Do you guys notice any difference in anything? Drive shaft for the drive shaft for the front is bronze or gray black, and the rear are silver. Don't know what that's all about, but it gives it a little personal touch, I guess. All right, everyone. So yeah, that's like I said again. I'll show you some things that are a little different than the build. All the bearings are the same size for everything. There's no different size bearing. It's using universal joints all over. Center drive shafts, out drive shafts. It is well designed. My thoughts is it's well designed. And again, the fitment of the diff front and rear. Oh man, that is so nice. This one's a little bit tighter. I guess it's going to be worn in. I guess they made it tight so majority of the power is going to bleed back here. Not resistant tight, but it is a little tight. So, you know, it's going to get worn in, but I just want to bring you in and show you a couple things that are different. One more thing. So this is a chassis. This chassis, let's say for instance, if this was a HoBao Hyper SSTE, you bought either the roller or the ready to run, you wouldn't have the, I would call, upgraded chassis. This is what this is, the upgraded chassis that comes already standard with this Pro kit. So one thing I also noticed that newer models, SSTE, K-Shruggy, these little slots here are already cut out. So that way when you put your diffs together and you set it on the chassis, you can slide it in there and it fits perfectly. But right now, these is where this notch right here sits in that hole right there. So it's automatically lined up. Once you put it in there, it sets in there and you set everything in. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it sits right there in that slot. Bottom screws in, tighten it down, and you're good to go. I just wanted to show that to you guys in case you were wondering. Is there anything really different about that? Yeah, that's one of the things that's different about it. That's pretty cool, I think. Alrighty, so there's a few things that's a little bit differently shocks than I've seen. And well, one thing, there's no bottom cap that goes on here. If you guys can see, there's no bottom cap. Only thing that's holding all this inside here, with those little springs right there, is what's holding the rubber seals and the plastic seals inside the shock. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. And it's covered up with this shock boot as well. So I'm going to put one or two of these together and show you what I mean. I don't know if you guys see what I'm doing. I'm actually pushing it on the plastic cap. Make sure that the spring is underneath the collar. So that way I don't have to worry about it popping out. That's that spring. I will say this. They supply the shock oil just enough to fill the shocks like they're supposed to. No more, no less. Top plate here for the cover for the center diff. I had to cut it out because mounting brackets set a little too low. So in order for me to keep my spur gear from touching anything on this, I had to cut the little bracket out here. I had to do some shaving on it's called the ESC dual servo mount that goes for the nitro. I had to cut that one part off. Receiver box I couldn't use. Find a receiver box to put this in so I can keep it waterproof or water resistant or keep water out of it. The top plate above the Ackerman bar and the steering servo, the servo saver and everything else, that's metal. That's aluminum. It's 2 millimeters thick. That's an upgrade. You don't get a lot of that in the ready runs that they have now. This is for the Pro Series, so I'm guessing that when they built this, they built it for it to last a long time. Chassis brace, the chassis brace are all aluminum too. Their Ackerman bar is aluminum too. It's about 1 mil thick and 2 mils thick in certain areas, 1 mil thick in the corners here. Steering rods and the turnbuckles in the back, they're about, thickest part of the ones in the rear is maybe 7 millimeters, and the front are 5 millimeters. I have little concerns about how the rod ends are for the steering rod, because you can see they have the little gap there where you can actually see the threads. Front suspension mount holder, there's 2 parts on the front part on the A. There's 2 parts of A. You have that thick gray piece there, and then you have I want to say steel, which is about 2 mils thick on the holding end. And in the rear, on the B block, that's about 5 mils thick themselves too. So now the C and D block, the C block is about, I'm going to say 5 mils thick too. The D block itself, that's a normal D block. It's about 2 mils thick. I would say that when HoBao put this truck together, they put it together nicely. All the drive shafts are universal. The difference on me for this whole thing is the chassis brace for the rear, the mounting portion of it, you have 2 pieces of it. You have the silver in the middle, that's a spacer to keep everything from shifting left and right. And as you can tell, you see instead of it being like a lock nut, has a collar and it has a flat piece, and whether you can actually hear it very well. And that's a part that's, that's pretty cool because you don't have to worry about losing a nut. Collar has that set screw in it that locks it down on that flat part. Actually comes in 3-piece. You have shock tower, front shock tower to include the body mount support. And then you have the body mounts that inserts inside the holes there. So, you know, you have, now after you put the rear shock tower on, you just got to ask yourself, where do I mount my body? They give you a separate one that goes in the center of that shock tower. That's your body mount. The other upgrade they have are the aluminum spacers for the rear wing support. I'm used to seeing plastic, not metal, and hopefully I don't bend those and hope they don't warp, because that will hopefully keep the entire wing mount straight and not warp or bend or sway one way or the other. But other than that, everyone, again, this build was awesome. All right, she's complete, almost complete. The body, not completely done. I ran out of blue fluorescent paint from Duratrax, and the local hot store does not have any in stock. So I had to order it, and it should be here between the 14th and 18th of this month. Again, does this RC, 17, 18 years old, meet today's standard for today's modern RC? Upgrade, I mean, think about it. If you bought an RC and you had upgrade parts already from whether M2C or the company that you bought it from, you'd be spending some extra money for it, right? It's one, battery tray. I had to set up the battery tray in a certain way where I had to cut off the little prongs where the screws insert into. That way it wouldn't fit in here if I left those portions on there. So I had to cut those off. And here's what I did. A piece of plastic, they call it conforming plastic. You heat it up, form it any way you want to. It's like almost like Kydex. So here's a picture of what it looked like. Had to cut it in one big strip, then I had to cut that in half or almost in half. And then I had to mount it with one screw on the bottom of the battery tray. That now attaches to the chassis like it would. If you didn't notice, you probably say, oh, that just came stock like that. Okay, well, like I said again, I try to keep it looking like you can buy it straight out of the store or off HoBao. Besides cutting that top bracket off, yeah. So that was one issue. And you see that big, like a T shape or a cross. That section there in the where I set the ESC, it would not mount because it had that little gap there. So I cut a piece of plastic off again, conforming thing, rounded it off. It's not as long as I want it to be, but it works. I can mount the ESC onto the chassis and have full contact to the chassis to include that piece of plastic. Everything else was easy to do, just those two little issues. Also, I did that to keep majority of the dirt from coming in underneath in that little hole. I guess that's where the motor would sit for the nitro, and that little area is there supposed to be for some runoff or whatever it is, oil dripping off, or to cool it. I don't know, but I had to cover that up. I didn't want all that dirt getting into the gears and everywhere else in the motor and everything else. So out of the box, this comes with 7075 chassis. I'm going to say 7075 chassis brace, aluminum top plate, A, B, C, and D blocks, all aluminum. There's no plastic on that anywhere, even the small piece that assists the blocks. Spider diff, HD, mounting plate for the center diff, metal. You can't go wrong. Universal drive shaft all around. Turnbuckles are all metal, no plastic anywhere. The fitment of the center and rear diff, you had to actually buy this, build it, and then upgrade it. You'd be spending a little bit more money. My opinion is, for this to be 18 years old, yes, it does meet the standards for today's modern RC. That's just my opinion. You guys might think I'm wrong. Leave your comments below whether I'm right or wrong. Random videos coming later. Ran out of fluorescent blue paint, and yeah, that won't be here till the 14th and 18th, and I will post it the same day I do the post saying it's done. The same afternoon, you'll see the running footage of it. So stay tuned, everyone. Keep watching. That's coming up. I don't have anything else to say for it. This was an awesome build. If you want to see a modern day build for the same price, let me know. There's one car out there that people say is probably the best build you can do or you can actually build, but we're going to find that out if you want to see that. Leave your comments below if you do. Maybe you might know what it is. It just popped up here recently, same price as this, a little bit more, might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but we'll compare the prices once if you guys want to see that build, all right? Now, that being said, everyone, I am done. I don't want to keep it any longer. Thank you, so awesome. Thank you for joining me again. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I really do appreciate that. Now we're going to sign off with, you know what to do. Hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the notification bell. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out very much, everyone. Helps me bring you better content, more trucks like this, and whatever else you want to see. Like me, the HoBao Hyper ST Pro kit build, not nitro, but electric. Yeah, we're out. Oh, and yeah, by the way, yeah, I am using the same setup I used in the cage truck and SSTE as far as motor, spur gear, and everything else, and pinion gear. Set up the same way. So on 4S, this is going to be a ballistic machine. On 6S, oh my God, you got to watch out for that. You got to watch out for that. All right, we're out, everyone.